Hello ladies and gentlemen, Seagull Green here, and today we are going to have another tier list about the artifacts in Just Mobile. I've done this video previously, but that was quite a long time ago, and since then there were a few changes and people got to using the new Apocalypse artifacts a little bit more, and we got a little bit more data, and the tier list is more fledged out. And with all that being said, I'll be bringing back the old tier list format since you guys seemed to enjoy that more. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button because a huge percentage of you are not subscribed. I mean, it only takes one click and you can always change your mind. So yeah, with all that being said, let's get into a tier list, and keep in mind this is just my personal opinion based on the knowledge that I have and on the gameplay that I have seen from other people. So yeah, let's get into it. So we're starting off with the F tier. Those are artifacts that if you have, you should maybe keep until you get other 3 artifacts that are not those 2 artifacts, and then break them into resources for other artifacts, because those artifacts here don't have any purpose and are simply outclassed heavily by one or multiple artifacts that are in the higher tiers. First of all, we got ourselves the Amulet of Agility artifact, and this is going to provide you with plus 100% dot damage and at the same time an increase in attack against metahuman opponents. The increase in attack against metahuman opponents is very situational, so it does not play a big role, and the plus 100% dot damage sounds very good on paper, am I right? But it has one very big flaw. The fact that almost every single, if not every single dot damage effect in the game does scale with the overall damage and overall attack of the character. And with that in mind, characters that do dot damage and rely on dot damage will perform far better and will do far more damage with artifacts like the All Blades that boost their damage overall because their dot damage does scale with attack damage. So this providing only an increase in dot damage and pretty much it is not going to really provide enough for it to be worth even taking a look at, because our artifacts are going to be far better and not only provide additional dot damage but provide more attack overall. And the next one is going to be the Amulet of Tech. The Amulet of Tech is going to provide you with 55% health. Of course, I'm talking about the artifacts at level 10, by the way. And some additional attack against Might heroes. The additional attack against Might heroes is going to be yet again very situational, and we're not going to really keep it in mind, especially since this is supposed to be a defensive artifact, and the health value is simply very bare bones for it to really be worth it. We already got 2 other artifacts that go straight towards increasing the health of the character. They increase it by far more than this artifact does, and they also give some additional effects. So yeah, unfortunately, this is going to be a bad artifact. You should still use it, don't get me wrong, if you got no other options, but as soon as you get better options, this is going into the shatter them category. So yeah, with all that being said, this was the F tier. Now let's move on to the D tier. In the D tier, we're going to have artifacts that could have been decent artifacts, was it for not artifacts that are far better than them. And you might be like, well, that sounds like the F tier, am I right? Yes, it does sound indeed like the F tier, but those are just a notch higher. They are a little bit closer to their stronger artifacts counterparts, but they are still not going to make it all the way to the top. Those are artifacts that you can use if you don't got no other options. Artifacts that are going to provide you with damage, we got in this tier 2 of them, but artifacts that in the long run are not really worth upgrading, and you should replace them as soon as you get a better option. So, starting off this tier, we're going to have ourselves the Amulet of Arcane. Amulet of Arcane will give you increased special attack damage and increased damage against arcane heroes. The increased special attack damage will be just 55%, and the increased attack against arcane heroes might situationally be useful, especially if you are using Silver Banshee against Dr. Fate or something close to that. Boss Dr. Fate, I mean. So, why is this artifact not higher? Because the All Blades performs far better. We got an artifact that's going to be applicable to every character in the game, to every situation in the game, and that performs better even in this specific situation where this artifact is specialized. So yeah, unfortunately, this might be a decent choice for you in the early game until you get your Dual Blades to use, but don't upgrade it, because as soon as you're getting the Dual Blades, you're going to dump this. Next up in this tier, we are going to have the Amulet of Might. This is going to be here for the exact same reasons as the previous one. It's going to be something that will provide you with additional damage on your basic attacks and swipe attacks, and is going to also provide you with additional damage against agility heroes. First of all, that additional damage on basic attacks might be decent, but Claws of Horus does a better job at that, because it gives you overall attack and that also stacks with your abilities. And the second part, the bonus damage against agility heroes, will be useful against phase 2 Brainiac if you're using Conflant Sacoman. But the big problem with this is the fact that if you're going to go with the strategy, you're going to pretty much have to gamble your special tree not being locked by Brainiac, so that's not viable to do. The only character that does not care about the special attack that is locked and does phase 2 is going to be Manta, and he does not receive the second one because he's not a Might character. So yeah, this is simply a worse version of other artifacts and other choices that we might have. Also, Firebox is a pretty decent replacement for this in terms of normal rates. So again, an artifact that you might use at the start of the game, you have no better options, but on the long run there are far better options to take a look at. And lastly, on this list, we are going to have an artifact that I have overrated in the past, and my mistake over there indeed is going to be an artifact that will grant you a shield that blocks any incoming damage for 10 seconds after receiving a pretty decent amount of damage yourself, and you're also going to reflect 57% of the damage that's incoming to you from special attacks. There's one big problem with this one. This artifact over here is not going to give you any flat-out bonuses, and it's going to be dependent on you taking damage. So pretty much it's going to be dependent on you making a mistake. And at the same time, this artifact is going to not really work properly, because if you're going to lose more than 10% of your max health, then you're most likely going to be hit by a special attack. And this is going to reflect only special attack damage, so there's a pretty high chance that you will not get to use ever the reflect passive that it provides. And the blocking of 77% damage is going to be good, but it's going to only last 10 seconds. And other artifacts that we're going to talk about further in this video, that are also artifacts meant for tanking purposes, are going to provide you simply with far better bonuses, and they are going to perform far better and give you overall effects during the fight, not only when you get hit. So yeah, with all that being said, this is the D tier. Those artifacts are artifacts that you should use, but as soon as you get a better option, replace them and maybe shatter them. So yeah, with all that being said, let's move into the C tier. Coming up in the C tier, we're going to have Electro X. Electro X is going to give you 1% chance to steal the opponent's combo meter. In my opinion, that is 100% worthless, because if you let the AI do a combo on you, he's going to most likely do an ability afterwards, you're pretty much screwed. So at most you're going to steal like 5 combo hits from the enemy, so that's a worthless effect that we will dismiss indeed. Next up, we got additional damage against minions and summons. This is going to only be useful in terms of soul rates when you are going to fight Darkseid or Last of the Joker, but even in those situations, it's most likely not going to be the go-to artifact for damage there anyways, so it does not matter that much. Next up is going to be the power bars that you gain and the health that you gain when you knock out an opponent. This is going to be particularly useful in Arena and Champions Arena, but the unfortunate part about this is that the Firebox is going to be a far better artifact for your character to use in Arena and Champions Arena, because this is going to provide you with some health regeneration and some power bars when you defeat the enemy, right? But this implies that you have defeated an enemy in terms of Arena and Champions Arena. And if you have defeated the enemy, then most likely you're not going to need the help of an artifact to do that, since this is going to only reward you after you have done the job. The Firebox is going to reward you during the job, and when you are close to be dead. So Electro X unfortunately falls flat in terms of that, because the Firebox is going to be just a far better artifact. And also it's worth mentioning that its Apocalypse bonuses, the attack and the health, are going to be on the medium tier. Like with Apocalypse artifacts, we are going to have a high tier of bonus attack and health, which will be Firebox, Entropy, Heart of Darkness, medium tier, which will be Electro X and Radian, and the low tier, which will be Mega Rod. So that's also worth mentioning. You're not going to receive the best attack and health buff from this one in terms of soul rates. So for those reasons, it's going to be C tier. A thing that really makes it stand out a little bit and not be D tier is going to be the fact that it's actually going to have a use. When you are playing normal raids, you can equip this on your combo builder and fight Gorilla Grodd and or not even the combo builder, the third character, equip him with this when you're fighting Brainiac and or Gorilla Grodd. You're going to kill the minions with this and you're going to start the fight with full power bars, landing you a very fast super move if you need to do so. For that niche use alone, it's going to make it all the way to C tier, but other than that, not much going for this one, unfortunately. Next up, we are going to have ourselves the NTH metal armor, or the knit metal armor, however you want to call it. So this will provide you with health bonus. That will be a 75% health bonus, and this is going to be already higher than the tech artifact that we talked about previously. He's going to provide you with additional attack for every percentage of the health that you're missing. This is going to be a pretty decent bonus to have, but yet again not the best bonus to have, because unfortunately for this to occur, you need to be kind of on the losing side of the fight, and at the same time, it's going to split the damage dealt by legendary characters, spells between special attacks between all the enemy teammates. Actually, no, the damage dealt overall by the legendary characters, and that's a very good bonus. If this bonus was applied to every single character in the game, not only legendary characters, this would have been at least 1 or 2 tiers above. But unfortunately, it only applies to legendary characters, and it's not like legendary characters really need that much help anyway in terms of arena NCA. So yeah, an artifact that it's amazing for legendary characters, provides you with a higher health boost, not the highest, we'll get into that later, and is going to also give you some additional attack as you lose health. Not the best artifact in the game, not the worst artifact in the game. And the last artifact on this tier is going to be the Mega Rod. The Mega Rod is going to give you additional special damage after successfully blocking an opponent's special ability. And that's not going to be the best thing in the world to use, because in terms of damage, if you're going to use Mega Rod, you can't really use it in terms of normal rates because of the fact that the Old Blade is going to perform far better. You can't use it in terms of solo rates because it has the lowest attack and health bonuses after all the Apocalypse, out of all the Apocalypse artifacts. So unfortunately, that bonus damage is not going to count for much. But the thing that really stands for this artifact is going to be the 100% chance to ignore at level 10, of course, Power Steal and Power Drain. And if Power Drain and Power Steal it's ignored, it's going to transfer 80% of the power that the opponent would have stolen to you. So basically, this sounds confusing, right? You're playing phase 3, you're standing in the left corner of the map. The hazard is supposed to drain your power, but if you've got this bad boy at level 10, that hazard is not going to drain your power, but instead is going to drain Brainiac's power and give it to you. And this also works in the soul rate fights that have hazards. Crazy, am I right? This is going to be the best artifact to use against Emerald Green Lantern in soul rates, because this way you also don't let him use his annoying special attack. And at the same time will be a pretty decent artifact for some teams in terms of normal rates. I have seen people use Silver Banshee in phase 3, I have seen people use Heartbreak Harlequin in phase 3 only because of this artifact alone. And that's why it's going to make it all the way up to the C tier. But other than this niche use, he's not going to do much, and it's not going to be a priority to upgrade anyway, so unfortunately this only gets to C tier. So this was everything for the C tier. Now let's move on to the B tier. Coming up in the B tier, we're going to first of all talk about the Claws of Horus. Claws of Horus is going to be an artifact that will increase your attack by 75%, and at the same time will give you a chance to stun the enemies on normal attacks and swipe attacks. This is going to be a decent artifact for Arena Champions right now, by far not the best. It's going to be the best artifact to use in raids against Horrific Scarecrow, in terms of damage at the very least, and at the same time it can be used if you want to gamble away the usage of Kinflan Sakomen in phase 2 and you don't really have your Might artifact upgrade. It's going to be the go-to artifact for Black Manta in most fights. That might be indeed replaced in the future by the Firebox in terms of damage maybe, but we don't know that yet. And at the same time, that chance to stun opponents on swipe attacks and all that stuff is going to be particularly useful in terms of the tier 3 fights in sword raids where the bosses have shields. So you equip this on the combo builder, you hit the opponent, Wonder Woman or Superman, whichever you're fighting, you stun them, and then you tag in your damage dealer to use a special tag. This is going to be a very niche use of them, but over that very niche they got the use of being the best artifact to fight for Ifix Scarecrow, they've got the use of being the best artifact for Black Manta, and they've got the use of being pretty much the second best option in terms of the Old Blades as a damage dealing artifact, and you can replace the Old Blades with this until you get the Old Blades. And no, Claws of Horus is by far not going to perform at the level of the Old Blades. I'm fully aware of that. But until you get the Old Blades, this is going to be pretty much the next best thing you can have. And for all those reasons, it's going to make it to the B tier. Next up, we are going to have the Metahuman Artifact. This artifact is the best artifact in the game at one thing, because he's the only artifact in the game at that thing. This is the only artifact in the game that can be a support artifact. What do I mean by that? You have a character that you know for a fact will never enter the fight. You got 3 characters. You're going to use one to build combo, one to deal damage. Very simple. And the third character is never going to enter the fight. The only artifact in the entire game that you can equip on that specific character and it will benefit the entire team is going to be the Metahuman Artifact. Because it will increase the healing effects by 100% for the character that's equipped on. And that's going to be a very bad bonus to give, honestly, because most of the healing bonuses in the game are going to scale up with attack, and even if they don't, like for example, which is I might rather have a tank artifact on him, but if you equip this on your third character, your whole team is going to receive the passive buff without losing a slot of artifact, and you can equip any artifact you have. And this has been made far better by the fact that we now got the Firebox in the game, and the Firebox is going to also grant healing. So in any team that you can put a Firebox, you can also put a Metahuman Artifact to boost the healing of the Firebox. And yes, if you are wondering, I have tested it, it does indeed work. And in some fights in soul raids where you know you can't tag in and out for a fact, for example, fights against Black Manta, fights against Speed Force the Flash, you're going to equip 2 characters with Metahuman Artifacts if you have them, of course, and 1 character with the Firebox, and that Firebox will heal a lot more. Again, not a priority to really upgrade. I was unlucky enough, or maybe lucky enough, to get them from the soul raid rewards at the level 4, 2 of them, and that's why I'm using them. But this is overall a pretty solid artifact that in the future you might consider upgrading, but it's not going to be a priority. Nevertheless, a pretty solid artifact with a pretty niche use. Next artifact, yet again on the B tier that we're going to talk about, is going to be the Radian. So, first of all, the first stuff of the Radian: if an opponent is protected by a shield or barrier, your ranged attack has a 100% chance to be unblockable and destroyed. This is going to not be the best thing in the world because there are not many characters in the game that have barriers, and at the same time the ranged attacks are very clunky to land. It's I bet like 50% of the people that are watching this video, or even more, have not used the ranged attack in ages, because they are not practical in terms of the game, and at the same time the opponent can easily jump over it. Next up, the bonus against bonus for ranged attacks is also pretty crap, only going to boost some specific characters. I'm not sure if it applies to abilities that are ranged. I don't think so, it's only the ranged attack. And you might wonder, why is it so high on this list then? Because of the third passive. If you've got yourself this bad boy at level 10, this is going to reduce by 75% the opponent's defense for 5 seconds. But you might be like, well, it's only 5 seconds. 5 seconds is going to be more than enough for you to tag in your damage dealer and use a special attack. This thing, as soon as people get their hands on more Apocalypse artifacts, as soon as maybe NetherRealms releases more ways to get Apocalypse materials, like the red meatballs, you are going to see this on pretty much every team on the combo builder, because that defense reduction is going to be amazing and is going to be the go-to for the normal raids in terms of the sub-bosses, and it's going to be pretty much replacing the classic Superman. So bye bye classic Superman, welcome Radian. And also it's going to give average bonuses in terms of soul raids. I have still seen people use this on a combo builder in soul raids and then use Firebox on a damage dealer. It's going to be pretty effective. It's going to be yet again average bonuses, not as low as Drought and not as high as Firebox. So overall a pretty damn decent artifact. this might actually be higher on the list the next time I make it, depending on how many people are using it and what results they get with it. But yeah, for now it's going to only be B tier. And the last artifact in the B tier is going to be the Heart of Darkness. The Heart of Darkness is going to give you plus 100% health, and this is by far the highest health bonus that we got out of all the 3 artifacts that give higher health bonuses. Next up is going to have a 100% chance to steal the healing effects of the opponent. This is going to be situational, it's going to be pretty much useless in terms of raids and soul raids, but it might have some uses in terms of Arena and Champions Arena, and you get additional power generation for 5 seconds when you get hit by a critical attack. So overall, this artifact is going to be so high because first of all, it gives the highest attack and health possible for an Apocalypse artifact for soul raids. Next up, the health boost is going to be an amazing amount, and the power generation for 5 seconds when you are going to be hit by a critical attack is going to be yet again a pretty situational attack, but a pretty situational bonus, but a bonus that might happen pretty often, more often than you would expect, and the healing is not going to be required as much since it's very situational. And honestly, I have not seen many people use Heart of Darkness that much, or make such a great use out of it, or I have not seen it seem like if this man didn't have Heart of Darkness, this fight would have gone completely differently. But we can only wait and see, and this artifact might actually go up a tier in future tier lists. So yeah, this was it for the B tier. Now let's move on to the A tier. Coming up to the A tier, we are going to have 2 artifacts, and we are going to start with the Entropy. First of all, the first effect of the Entropy is that each instance of incoming damage that's coming towards you cannot deal for more than 8.7% of your max health. This is going to be very useful when regarding the enemy's abilities. At the very least some of them, because some abilities have more instances of damage, and it's not going to be very useful against the teams that rely on damage on basic attacks. So against things that might simply nuke your character, like Brainiac's armor piercing special attacks, or some characters in Arena and CA, this is going to be very useful, but in our scenarios not extremely useful. Next up is going to be the Dawn of Apocalypse specific bonus. This is going to pretty much make the Dawn of the Dark Side super move not one-shot your character and only take 8.7% of their max health with one super move, and this is going to be extremely useful for most teams when fighting Dark Side. Next up is going to be a reduction in hazard and hazard dot damage, and that reduction is going to be up to 95%. By having this artifact, you're pretty much going to make any character be a viable tank for any fights that has hazards, like the fights with hazards in soul raids and the fights with hazards in normal raids, specifically phase 3. So that's an amazing thing. And next up, you're going to negate the secondary effects of the hazards. So pretty much the passive of Emerald Green Lantern, but only applying to the character wearing this. And on top of all of that, this is going to give the biggest attack and health bonuses in terms of raids, in terms of soul raids. So overall, this is a very good artifact. One of the best artifacts in terms of soul raids. Not the best artifact in terms of damage, but definitely a solid artifact. And in terms of things that are outside soul raids, this is going to provide above average bonuses. Like, it's not going to be the best thing in the world except for some specific scenarios, but it's going to perform pretty damn well for you. And next up, we're going to have a pretty straightforward artifact, maybe the most straightforward artifact in the game. The Kryptonian Regeneration Matrix. So what does this do, you might ask? Your character dies, it gets revived. If it's level 10, it gets revived with 74% of the health. And this will also give some 100% attack to Superman if he dies and gets revived. But that is very situational, and Superman does not really use it except Arena and Champions Arena maybe. So why is that revive so good? Why is that revive so amazing? Well, it is so amazing because of the fact that, and you might be like, well, Sigval, you said you don't like things that depend on your characters dying or taking damage. Yes, but this one is going to be a very, very good safety net. This is not a thing you put in your tank, this is not a thing you put in your damage dealer necessarily, this is a thing you put on characters that are not going to see that much of a fight, but you need to have them alive. Or you simply need to have them alive, or your fight will be screwed. For example, you put this on Praetor Batman when you're using Silver Banshee against Dr. Fate. You use Praetor Batman Silver Banshee. If Praetor Batman dies, your damage is going to be tremendously reduced. You put this on Entangling Poison Ivy when using her with Harper Harlequin and Arkham Knight Batman. Because if she dies, and she'll get tagged in usually to tank the super move, if she dies, then you are not going to deal dot damage on your basic attacks anymore. And you can simply put this on every single character in the game and it will be useful to some extent. Maybe not the best for that specific characters, but it will be indeed useful. And this is a very good character to have in a lot of situations where it might save key characters from dying. So yeah, with all that being said, this was the A tier. Now let's move up to the S tier. So, starting up with the S tier, we've got two things that you most likely predicted by this point. It's the only two artifacts that have not been in the list so far. The All Blades and the Firebox. Let's start it with the All Blades. The All Blade is going to gain 100% attack for 30 seconds. When you tag in, it's going to inflict 20% damage of your current health on you. And at the same time, we'll give some little attack chance and reduce the super move cost by 5 for Red Hood. That's going to be pretty decent for him since you might need his super move because it prolongs the duration of the fight. But the main focus is going to be that 150% attack increase in terms of for 30 seconds when you tag in. But you might be like, it's only 30 seconds, it damages you, why would you want this? Because it stacks. It stacks and it can stack up to 4 times. So it's not going to be only a 150% damage increase on your tag-ins, on your damage dealers. It's going to be somewhere up to 600% base attack increase for your character when you tag in and out for some specific characters. And most characters are going to only use it at 3 stacks or only a 450% increase attack for most characters. And yes, it comes to the cost of reducing your health, but the damage output that you'll do with this compared to with the situation where you didn't have this will be huge. And that's why this is an amazing artifact. It's the best artifact in terms of damage for raids, it's the best artifact in terms of damage for arena and champions arena in terms of damage speaking strictly. In terms of soul rates, it will be better than the Firebox up until like level 4 or 5. After that, the Firebox will replace it. But until then, until you get your Firebox to level 4 or 5, and it will take some time, the All Blades will be a far better choice in terms of damage. Now, moving on to the other artifact that we got ourselves over here, and that's going to be the Firebox. So, let's see what it does. First of all, it's going to have the highest bonuses in terms of the Dawn of Apocalypse passive buffs, equal to Heart of Darkness, and at the same time equal to the Entropy. And it's going to do so when you are 30% health, you will regenerate 51% health over 6 seconds, and it will cleanse all the debuffs every 3 seconds. And this will trigger 3 times per battle. A lot of information, am I right? Let's break it down. So, you get damaged, you get below 30% health, and then you get healed by 51% of your max health for 3 seconds. So it's in ticks of heal, so you can take damage in between and the heal will keep going up, keeping you up. And at the same time, it will cleanse debuffs for every 3 seconds. So what does that mean? A debuff is when you are inflicted by dot damage, a debuff is when you are stunned, a debuff is any long-lasting effect that the opponent has placed on you, pretty much. And it's going to remove them twice over one duration. So if you get stunned, you're going to get free of the stun. If you get stunned again in 3 seconds, you're going to yet again break free of the stun. This sounds amazing already, am I right? And this is going to trigger 3 times per battle. That sounds amazing, am I right? And on top of that, you're going to get a teleporting rush attack, and that attack will deal additional damage. The teleportation of that rush attack is going to allow you to dodge some skills, like straight up dodge some projectile abilities of the enemy, straight up dodge some ranged attacks of the enemy, and at the same time it will enable an infinite combo for Dr. Fate, and for Nightwing for some reason. Like before this artifact was introduced, Nightwing was able to do an infinite combo without an artifact. Now he needs the Firebox to do an infinite combo, but at least it's a perfect infinite combo. And the additional damage on rush attack is not going to be much in terms of raids, arena and champions arena, but it's going to make this the best artifact in terms of damage that you can use in soul raids, and most likely the best artifacts you can use in soul raids for most situations. There are some characters that are going to do better with the Entropy, there are some instances where Entropy is going to be better, but overall this one is going to be better than the Entropy in terms of soul raids. So we got this being the best artifact for soul rates, we've got this being more or less the best artifact for defensive purposes in terms of arena and CA. You could argue for some other artifact you can get a better defense in terms of arena and champions arena, but this one is going to definitely be up there on top. And in terms of normal rates, it's going to be used to do the infinite combo with Dr. Fate. It's going to be used maybe to use Black Manta against phase 2 or Horrific Scarecrow. It remains to be seen if this will yield better damage than the Claws of Horus. So yeah, with all that being said, this was the list. Let me know down in the description what you think about it. Make sure to subscribe for more content like this. It only takes one click. You can always change your mind. And yeah, this was pretty much it. This was my opinion based on my game experience and based on the things that I've seen regarding those artifacts. And full disclosure, right now I do not own the Entropy, I do not own the Radian, and I do not own the Regeneration Matrix. But other than that, I pretty much own all of them, or I have owned all of them across different accounts. Why I say have owned all of them? Because I shattered the agility artifacts and the tech artifacts, like who wouldn't? So yeah, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to let me know what you think about the video in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.